Hey, friendo, Steve here. Welcome back to the Friendoville channel, and I got a special guest with me today.
Yeah, I'm here. What's up? It's like I've never been here before.
What? No, you're never. When's the last time? I think we did like a food vlog.
I did a whole bunch of sneaker videos on this channel.
Oh, that's right. You used to like be an integral part of this channel. Those are some of our best performing things.
I know.
Good
well,
job.
You should be happy. That ups my negotiating leverage to get a Scottie Pippen type deal from you, Steve, the Houston Rockets.
Oh, crap. Oh, I thought you meant it was a Chicago Bulls-esque deal. So I'll happily give you a Chicago Bulls-esque Scottie Pippen deal.
No. I want Houston Rockets. Was it 5 years, $68 million? That's what I want.
So you have, just generally speaking, a better memory than I do. Did you know that his deal with the Bulls was that bad?
No, I didn't know it was that bad. I mean, granted, I was a huge Chicago Bulls fan through the Jordan Pippen era, I think.
Of course. Everybody was in the 90s.
When I first discovered what NBA basketball was, I think it was... I knew what it was before, but when I first started getting into it, I was making my Christmas list. For Christmas, 1986. Yeah, 1986. And I was going through either the Sears or J.C. Penney Dream Book. That was called their Christmas catalog.
I have no idea, but that's
cool.
I was in England at the time.
I was looking for stuff, and I was like, wow, this basketball here. Like, I knew what basketball was. I remember we were at what was Price Club? Remember Price Club? It was like the precursor to Costco.
Yeah.
We were walking through there in 85, because the 85 finals were on between the Rockets and the Celtics. And I was walking in, and it was playing all the TVs they had out. I know I remember these things. So I was going through, so I knew what basketball was. I used to play basketball with my dad. And so I was going through this catalog, and there was this red and black basketball. I was like, wow, that looks amazing. I want that.
Yeah.
And come to find out, it's the Michael Jordan basketball.
Yeah.
And so that's when I was like, oh, Michael Jordan. And so I started watching Bulls games on WGN. Probably the 86-87 season or the following season, because that's when Pippen was drafted.
What an elitist family you were that you had cable and you had WGN, the superstation.
We had cable back with like the birth of MTV. My parents were all about getting cable like right away.
Flex.
Right away. There were summers, we go out back in our swimming pool, built in, not above ground, underground. Oh, going to get a drink of water? Wow, Duran's on MTV right now.
We didn't get that. We didn't get cable until I moved to England, and all the houses had cable.
Oh, really?
That's how your tax dollars are being spent.
That's right.
Quality entertainment.
So like from 86, 87 all the way through the title years, huge Bulls fan, huge Jordan fan. So a lot of this stuff I was familiar with, like how Krause wanted to break up the team way too early. A lot of the stuff about the early years of Jordan playing, I eventually found out about all that. But no, Pippen's contract. Actually, I didn't remember the whole lot of the stuff in early '98. The problems, about how I guess I no clue that he delayed his surgery, just kind of stick it to the team.
Yeah.
I don't remember him demanding a trade, any of that stuff.
Yeah. So I'm not really sure. So this obviously is our last dance review. Yeah, I mean, in terms of like new information, there was a lot of information that was new to me that I had kind of remembered a little bit of, but I wasn't. Look, it was obviously as teens of the '90s, as kids of the '90s, we didn't have Twitter for the longest time in the '90s. We didn't have the internet.
Yep.
So and I wasn't like glued to 24-hour sports news back in 1997, 1998.
Oh yeah, I was watching like SportsCenter all the time back then.
Yeah. But yeah, I didn't know that. But I think what's kind of number one, what's interesting about The Last Dance is the fact that they had all this footage that they never used until now.
Well, did you hear why Jordan? Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead. What were you about
I was going to say, the arrangement was Adam Silver went to Jordan and said, for your last season, let's tape a bunch of stuff, but we won't ever air it unless both parties agree to do so.
Oh, wow.
And I guess it wasn't till the Cavs, I just read this the other day, the Cavs 2016 championship celebration. I guess Jordan watched that and was like, all right, let's do it. So apparently this has been, 4 years in the making, essentially.
What was the impetus? Why the Cavs celebration? Why was that the thing?
I don't know.
He just felt it was time. One thing
maybe he felt like it was enough time had passed. He wanted to remind people, people are saying Kobe's the best. LeBron's the best. So-and-so is the best.
Yeah. Did you read there's a 538 article that uses 538 math, which is a far superior system to going in raw math because they use real stats. Where they talk about the mathematical reasons why Jordan is the greatest of all time.
I saw that on Twitter. I was like, I know Jordan's the best. I watched him play. I don't need anything else.
it's a really good article though. But if you need more affirmation, okay. So let's get to the best part of The Last Dance.
All right, Jordan talking shit to Jerry Krause. That's the
far
best part.
Far and away. Did you feel any? Here's one thing that I feel like they needed to do a bit more though. Explain why Jerry Krause, beyond him wanting to dismantle the team, like when it's the best team ever, beyond that, seemingly, and they talk about this, but they never get into specifics, how they say Jerry Krause couldn't get out of his own way. Jerry Krause ended up burning all of his, or not burning all of his bridges necessarily, but like in terms of personal relationships, ended up burning a lot of bridges. What specifically? Because, oh my God, they treated him like shit.
Well, in episode 2, they go into back in 1986 when Jordan broke his foot in the third game of the season, missed 64 games, came back, and granted, he didn't tell the team that he'd been playing basketball in Chapel Hill, North Carolina while going back to school, but he came back and he was like, all right, I'm ready to play. My foot's good. Let's go. And, there was 13 games left in the season. Bulls were out of playoff contention. And as he put it, this is probably never explicitly told to him, but the idea would be, well, we'll tank the rest of the season, get a better draft pick, get in the lottery, getting a better draft pick, rather than being 8th seed in the playoffs and making a first-round exit. And Jordan's like, no, I'm here to play. I'm here to win. That's just how he's wired. If he's in the game, he wants to win the game. There's no point to play a game unless you're playing to win it. And so he was on a minutes restriction. He was allowed to play 7 minutes a half. And he just thought it was if you go into a game with a losing mindset, what's the point of playing? If you're going to play the game, you're in there to win. So let's go and try to win every game we can and try to make the playoffs so we can make the playoffs. Because once you're in the playoffs, anything could happen. They were like 30-52 at the end of the season.
Yeah, which is insane. Like when they said, we won 30 games and barely eked the 8 seasons. Like how bad was the East back then?
Lousy, apparently.
Trash.
They said in episode 2, that's when the issues between Jordan and ownership and management happened, which that was his second season. It's amazing he stuck around for as long as what he did.
I know.
Going back to Krause in relation to the 97-98 team, early on episode, they did, and maybe it's not from the player's perspective, Jerry Krause was the villain.
Yeah, for sure.
And I thought they did an okay job painting why. Everybody said like, person to person, he seemed like a pretty nice dude. Like Bill Wennington said, he's a nice guy.
Yeah.
But it was a situation where he didn't feel like Krause is, and maybe the part of the issue with this documentary was so far the only bits of Jerry Krause is from archival footage. And so if he's still around, either he didn't want to participate. I don't know if he's passed away since this all stuff was shot. I don't recall. That he didn't feel like he was given the credit he deserved for putting together this team, and so whatever chip he had in his shoulder for that, I guess his motivation was, I'm going to tear this apart and build a team back together that can win titles again. But this time it's like this is the organization. Okay, he passed away last year.
Yeah, he passed away in 2017. Yeah, there was the general idea, I think, and I wonder if it's this, from the time he came aboard and became general manager and built this team, within that span of time from 85, I think is when he came on, or 85 or 86. I think it was 85.
It was 85. Yeah. It was a year after Jordan got drafted. Yeah.
To when they won their first championship in 1991. And they talked about this, and we all know this. The league changed big time. Big time. So the Chicago Bulls, like around 83, by like right before they got Jordan, they mentioned this in the show, they were being outdrawn in attendance by like the local soccer team. And so like you see some of that footage from like, the
old Chicago Stadium. Yeah, it's empty.
No, it's empty. It's ridiculously empty. And so I wonder if that mindset when he might have been misquoted, but I think the kernel of it was still there. He said organizations win championships, not players. Now, yes, there was more context to that quote, but the general idea of that and they talked about how he really wanted the credit for building the team. He really craved that, probably led to just a massive amount of disrespect or a lack of respect on behalf of the team.
That played out on camera, yeah.
Oh my God, dude, when he went up to him and said, "Oh, are those pills you taking that keep you short, or are those diet pills?" And Jordan walks away laughing.
No, the best one is when they're getting ready to go out to the game, the first game of that last season, and Jerry's there, and Jordan goes, "Hey, you want to come out and do layups with us?" And Jerry says, "Yeah." And then Jordan says, "You have to lower the rim then." Walks away. Oh, man.
Can you imagine the most iconic, most popular figure in sports and in pop culture at the time is using you as his verbal punching bag?
And you're his boss.
And you can't do anything but eat it. Man.
But it's the situation where you have this team who's won at the beginning of this season 5 titles in 7 years. And if Jordan hadn't stepped away from the game, they could have won 7 straight. Titles.
Yeah.
And they go into the season with, like, apart from Michael Jordan, everybody's on their decline.
Yeah.
Pippen played 6-7 years after that. Mm-hmm. Maybe not that high a level. He still had a lot of time.
Well, this is a point that Scottie Pippen made, and granted they wouldn't have known this, but this is a point that Pippen made a couple months ago on the Rachel Nichols show is. Mm-hmm. He said, if you remember, the following season was the lockout year, and they only played 50 games or something.
Yeah.
And he said, man, maybe a full season would have been a bit much for us because we were aging, but all that extra time off, all that rest, plus playing 30 less games, we could have easily taken an 8th or 7th. Been 7th. 7th.
Yeah.
Which is, again, they wouldn't have known that going into it, but still, until you. And I love Jordan's philosophy of it's ours until we lose it. Mm-hmm. Is such a great one that I think was obviously not reflected by management. But that was interesting stuff. The some of the footage, just some of the random stuff that was a bit more interesting was Charles Oakley when he was with the team picking on Scottie Pippen. And Pippen just doesn't apparently Pippen had oddly because he doesn't seem like the type. He had a big head when he got drafted as Scott Pippen was drafted to the Bulls, and he was like, I'm better than. Apparently he vocalized that, and Charles Oakley, who was Jordan's biggest protector, on camera was basically slapping him around, which was kind of unsettling to see.
And they kind of alluded to it when they kind of introduced the stretch in the second episode about Pippen, about how playing with Jordan helped with Pippen's, I guess, mental toughness or however you want to put it.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to come the Pistons episode next week, which I'm really looking forward to. If they get into that a bit more, because there was one of those series where Pippen's like, I have headaches, I can't play.
Yeah.
Like he had migraines so bad. Not to diminish migraines at all, because migraines could be awful.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
But just how Jordan responded to that.
Yeah. One of the goals I read from the filmmaker said one of the, not necessarily kind of goals, I guess, was to, Jordan has a reputation for being competitive to the point of crazy.
Yeah.
And I guess one of the ideas behind this is to humanize him a little bit.
And I thought the first through 2 episodes actually did a pretty solid job of that.
I agree. I totally agree. It's interesting to see him as well. And I really love the structure too. They're starting at the end and they're starting at the beginning, and so you get the beginning of the 97-98 season, and then it goes back and tracks his, the progress of him and the Bulls from when he started, and just how mild-mannered he was when he came in, and very humble and very and then by the time 97 comes around, he acts like he is the king shit. he acts that way. And it's a fascinating look at how a person can change to that degree over the span of like 13 years.
Yeah. I mean, but like when's the last major public thing that I could think of that Jordan, before Kobe's funeral, that Jordan had really done? It was his Hall of Fame speech.
Oh, yeah.
And that was an hour of just bitterness, resentment played out. It was essentially a middle finger. His Hall of Fame speech was pretty much a middle finger to everybody who thought slighted him. Going back to his high school coach, who cut him from the team back in his sophomore year, I think, or freshman year. And at least in this, when they talk about, because I knew that he was really competitive with his older brother playing basketball and stuff, and in this, it humanized him a lot more, because it wasn't just like, my brother used to beat me, that pissed me off. It was, it wasn't just I wanted to beat my brother at basketball. It was, I want the validation that my brother got from my dad. I wanted that for myself, so I felt like I had to be better than my brother at the very least at basketball.
And they cut to footage of his dad acknowledging that and saying, Larry, his brother, was really good, for example, fixing stuff up around the house, and Michael wasn't. I'd ask for pliers, he'd give me a wrench, or vice versa, and I would just dismiss him and say, okay, you just go in your house and help your mom. And so, Michael was like craving validation from his dad. And so, that was.
And it was interesting to hear him talk about it.
And it is.
And acknowledge it and realize that, yeah.
And one of the first things they do also is put an iPad in front of Michael live on camera and show him footage of his mom reading a letter that he sent her from college when he was, a baby boy, basically, asking her to send him stamps and put some money in his account so he can, buy some stuff. And it's one of the sweetest moments. And it does. Like, you get the process of the man, and why he is the way he is. It's really, really interesting stuff. But the shit talk to Jerry Krause, and then the reports of Scottie Pippen giving Jerry Krause the same kind of treatment on the bus, apparently to the degree that it was just uncomfortable for people. Man, $18 million over the span of 7 years. Yeah.
Which, he signed that in 91.
Which is weird.
That would have been before they won their first title, because their first title was 91-92.
But they were sniffing at the title for a couple years.
They've been to the Eastern Conference Finals 2 years in a row and got beat by the Pistons.
It is crazy that, like...
It's interesting to hear Reinsdorf say, I told him not to sign it.
I know.
But you hear Scotty's perspective, that makes sense. It's like, okay, this is security I have and money, guaranteed money I have to take care of my family. He had 2 members of his family in wheelchairs. So that afforded him the opportunity to build his parents a house. I'm sure one that was made to the specifications they needed to accommodate his father, who was in a wheelchair. So, when he talks about not coming from much financially, here's his first chance, post rookie contract, which was probably a good amount of money, but nowhere near $18 million. Where he's like, okay, I get this money. I know I have it. Even if I get injured tomorrow, I have this money. So, for that level of security, I guess I understand.
It made sense, but also it's gee whiz. Like, they just let him. It is kind of weird too. It's like, I understand from an owner's perspective, especially, I mean, I don't know, like, do you know much about Reinsdorf in terms of like, is the Bulls his primary thing?
No, he owns the White Sox too.
Okay, so another sports team. Because
I'm understanding he's got a reputation for being frugal.
Okay, sure. It comes off for sure. It comes off. I love the soundtrack. It was all like time specific. So like when they flash back to 84,
some LL Cool J.
You get some LL Cool J, but then when they had the montage in '97, it was like Biggie Smalls and Puff Daddy. So I like that, given that we're going to be going from like 84, 85, and it's going to go on, we're going to get little bits of soundtrack, or we're going to get little bits of period specific music from the various times. So that's
just interesting. Cool. It's just interesting that they were so willing to blow up a team that had such an incredible run, even if they were getting a little bit on in years. Rather than saying, all right, let's take this season by season.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to tie yourself into huge long-term deals. Like, I think at that point, Jordan was just taking one huge 1-year contract.
Jordan's his last contract, I know, was just for 1 year, like $30 million or something. And like nobody had 1 year, $30 million until like, wasn't it like Beasley or something? Not Beasley. Somebody fairly recently finally cracked the 1 year, $30 million mark.
Oh, in basketball?
In basketball, yeah.
What about a 1 year? People mean like the
no, making $30 million a year. Has somebody, because
like
once they
the upper limit for a max deal now is like $40 million.
Okay, all right.
It's huge. I think a Bird Rules max player, I think it's 5 year, $200 million.
Yeah, now it is. But like that's after they like upped the limit.
Well, back then there wasn't the rigid salary structure there is now.
Yeah,
where you had slots, like you had a max slot. They didn't have max slots back then.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I remember that. So yeah, no, that was interesting stuff.
But it's just the willingness to blow the whole team up in the midst of such a huge run.
Just based off the general manager wanting a clean slate for, I guess, again, credit validation, proving he can.
Well,
do it again.
I guess to a certain extent, you had Jordan in his 13th year, Pippen in his 10th. I mean, I guess if you're just looking on paper, the calendar is telling me, regardless of the performance on the court, this calendar is telling me the end is soon. But you got to weigh that with what you're seeing out there.
Yeah.
And so long as they're performing at such a high level, and winning championships, you can't deny your organization, you can't deny your city of that opportunity, as Jordan says, until they lose it, until someone steps up to beat them. Let us go out there and defend it. It's amazing that effectively the greatest player to ever play the game was forced into retirement because his team said, we're not going to bring the coach back that you love. We're gonna do a rebuild. And early on, the first episode, he was asked about that back then. I guess after winning the 5th title, because it's like, hey, there's talk of this and this happening, and he's like, yeah, sometimes they say rebuilds take a year or two. Well, sometimes they take 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, 10 years, 20 years. The Cubs have been rebuilding for 42 years.
Yeah.
Which brought some laughter from the press corps, but it's entirely true.
Yeah.
Rebuilds are open-ended. How many championships have the Bulls won since they forced Jordan out of town? Zero.
Have they made it to did they make it to the, when they were hot, did they make it to the Eastern Conference Finals?
They might have when Rose was on the team, but maybe made it to the finals.
Yeah. So interesting stuff. You said next week is the Pistons episode? I didn't see
Bad Boys episode, man. I can't wait.
That's gonna be good.
I remember watching those series, man.
I want to hear more from Oak. I want to hear more from Charles Oakley. He was on the Knicks.
He just had one soundbite in there.
What's that?
He just had the one soundbite.
I know.
Episode 1.
I know. I want him to talk to him more. He's got to have more. All the gambling stuff. You think they could talk about it?
I don't know.
They're gonna visit his 18-month suspension for gambling.
It's gonna get heavy when it gets to that stuff about his
I
dad
know.
passing away, man.
I know. So Lacey was watching with me, and she was into it. At first, she was like, "Oh, it's basketball." I'm like, "Dude, trust me." I'm like, "This is basically about the '90s," and us '90s kids, we love the '90s.
Well, it's that, but it's also it's a character study of people who have to be basketball players too.
Yeah, and everybody loves Jordan. But yeah, no, she was watching, and I'm really looking forward to her. She loved that stuff. She was all about it. Like, I had to rewind. There was that one shot where it was the game against the Clippers, and they got into double overtime. And like Jordan they were like, he couldn't rely on anybody. And he's looking for a pass, and he just brings the ball down and goes, like mid-play.
Yeah. I know.
He basically face palms mid-play. Oh, it was great. It was fantastic. Now, she was eating it up. So I'm looking forward to seeing her reaction to seeing the Bad Boys, because those 80s teams, like how hard hitting they were, especially the Pistons were the epitome of it. Man. And then what do they call it? The traveling cocaine circus?
Oh, yeah, from the 80s. Yeah, it's funny he was asked about that. And at first he seemed to, like, it was going to be a no comment. And he says, I'll tell you one thing.
Yeah.
And pretty much the one thing he said is that he walked into a huge cocaine party.
With the entire team. He doesn't single anybody out as not being there. He says, yeah, it was the entire team. There was coke over here. There was weed over here. There were women over here. And I was the only teammate not to be in the room.
And he said he walked in. He's like, even if I'm there not doing anything, if the cops bust this, it's guilt by association. I'm just gonna turn around and go away.
You believe that story?
Yeah.
That he left?
Yeah. I do.
You think there's any second thinking there? Any like, oh, got to be some
I don't
temptation.
know. I'd believe that. I believe that he walked away.
That was pre-Len Bias.
Mm-hmm.
Len Bias wasn't until 2 years later. Everything changed after that. But that was one thing that somebody noted also, is that if they had lost, if they had not made the playoffs that second year, and they would have been up for the lottery, Len Bias was in that draft class.
Oh, in 1986.
Yeah.
I wonder who the first pick was.
The first pick in 1986?
Yeah, because I don't think it wasn't. Len Bias was second or third.
I think he was second.
I think.
Or was he number
first?
one?
Oh, Brad Daugherty. Brad Daugherty was number one. Len Bias was two.
Oh, okay. All right.
It was Brad Daugherty, who had a decent career for the Cavs.
Mm-hmm.
Len Bias, Chris Washburn, who didn't do much.
Yeah, he didn't do anything.
Chuck Person, Kenny Skywalker. Ron Harper, who would eventually become a Chicago Bull anyways.
I liked all that. Speaking of Ron Harper, I liked all that the practice footage also. I want more of that. I want more of Jordan being crazy in practice. Because, man, he would yell at people. And I'm sure that's probably standard for any of the teams. Like, I think I've seen footage of Kobe in practice also. He was much the same way. Like, he would just be yelling at people. I mean, that's what team leaders do, I think, in sports generally. They just
I'll
call
say
people
this.
out.
The 86 draft is not terribly deep.
Yeah.
Looking at it. Especially at the top of the draft. Is that not a whole lot of these players. Like, there's not a... Yeah.
In Bill Simmons' basketball book, he's got a great write-up about it's like a whole chapter on what ifs, and one of them was what if Len Bias hadn't died, and it talks about all the sort of boxes that he filled to extend other people like Kevin McHale's career and like Larry Bird getting him more minutes. It could have changed things quite a bit for the Celtics as well.
Yeah.
But you never know. That's a crazy situation.
It really is, man.
Anyways, man, thanks for showing up here for the Last Dance review. We're gonna.
This is my wheelhouse, man. This is an era of NBA basketball I'm pretty well versed in. So,
I love this stuff, man. I love this stuff so
join.
much. It's so great. A lot of great memories. Because I was a huge Bulls fan. I was like, because here's the thing, growing up in Sacramento, I'm a hometown guy. I always like the hometown team. It's impossible to be a Kings fan in the early 90s. It's impossible. It's
they were trash.
I always want, like, I'd go to their games and I'd always root for them. But it's like, realistically speaking, they're not really something you can really root for,
I went to their games to see my favorite players play them. I got to see Michael Jordan once. He had a court from half shot to end the half.
Well, bully for him. I would root for the Kings over the Bulls, don't get me wrong, because I'm a hometown guy. That being said, after that fact, I'd be rooting for the Bulls all the way.
No, I was there for that Bulls game, and I was rooting for the Bulls 100%. I wore my Jordan jersey.
All because you saw a red and black ball one time.
This is what was enough, man. This is what got me started.
I like the shoes. And I never had those shoes, and now I have several pairs.
There you go.